Welcome to episode 39 of the Becoming MindStrong podcast. And today I'm answering a question that I get asked a lot regarding workouts. And the question is, what do I eat before a workout? And what do I eat after a workout? Check it out. Welcome to Becoming MindStrong, the official podcast of MindStrong Fitness. My name is Rachel. I'm the owner and head coach of MindStrong Fitness, and I am here to teach you truth. No more bullshit, no more point systems, no more shakes, no more wraps. This is math and science, and we're going to learn how to do it together. Ready? Let's rock and roll. So back in season 1, we did an episode that was completely directed at food. Does the time I eat matter? What should I be eating? Is the truth about eating at 8 p.m. versus eating earlier in the day? And should I eat breakfast and shouldn't I eat breakfast? If you missed that podcast episode, I suggest you go back and check it out. Today, we're going to narrow that conversation in a bit and discuss solely about what to eat before and after a workout. And the reason I'm referencing that episode is this. Spoiler alert. If you haven't listened to that yet, there's about to be a spoiler coming up. The big takeaway from that episode is that the time we eat does not matter. Weight loss comes down to calories in versus calories out. This whole idea of not eating after 8 p.m. or you have to eat breakfast or you shouldn't eat breakfast, it's all bullshit. At the end of the day, calories in versus calories out, hit your numbers, you're golden. Also in that episode, however, I told you that the most important meal of the day is not breakfast. It's the meal you eat after a workout. And we talked about how what you're doing in the gym is not actually building muscle in that moment. Quite the opposite. You're actually creating little tears in your muscle fibers. And it's when we rest and when we recover and when we refuel from food that those muscle fibers repair themselves, our muscles grow. What does our body need for that repair? Food. Food is literally the fuel of our body. So the meal you eat after a workout is the most important one of the day. And that includes if you are someone who works out at night, right? This whole idea of like, well, I don't get home from the gym till 9 p.m., so I should just go to bed. You are doing your body a disservice. It's looking to heal. It's looking to repair no matter what time of day it is. And it needs fuel to do that via food. Now, the other most important meal of the day, if we're going to give us a second, maybe even a tied with first, because otherwise you're going to feel terrible, you're going to pass out, is the meal you eat before you go to the gym. If you're someone who works out early in the morning, and we'll talk about ways around this, but if you've ever tried to go to the gym in the morning and you haven't eaten or you haven't eaten enough, you know that you'll get dizzy super fast. You may even pass out. It's wildly unsafe. It is not good for your body. So we want to make sure that we're properly fueling our body both before a workout and that we're giving it what it needs to repair after a workout. So let's talk about best foods for those two times a day for those two activities. When you're preparing to work out, your before workout meal, the theme of this meal should be complex carbs. Now, if you've hung out with me, you know that I'm not a fan of using the labels good food, bad food. We use the terms nutritious food, less nutritious food. Some foods have a lot of vitamins and minerals in them. Those are called our micronutrients. Some don't have as many, right? Is pasta a good food? Are Fruity Pebbles a bad food? You know, the one is obviously more nutritious than the other. But we want to get out of this mindset of good food, bad food. I say that because simple carbs and complex carbs are two types of carbs. What you want to focus on before a workout is complex carbs. Complex carbs are the more nutritious food. This is where we're talking about starches and fibers, things like jasmine rice and red potatoes and sweet potatoes and pasta and oatmeal and bananas. Those heartier, what we used to call good carbs, but we're now calling more nutritious carbs. Okay. Your pre-workout meal should be primarily complex carbs. From there, you can add in some protein and try to keep it as little fat as possible. Doesn't mean you can't have any fat with it, but you don't want a super high fat meal right before you work out. The reason is, if you know the math behind macros, you know that fat is more calorically dense. So 1 gram of carbs and protein each have 4 calories. 1 gram of fat has 9 calories. It takes our body a lot longer to break down fat. It is not a good energy source for going to the gym. So if you have a high fat meal right before you work out, let's say you have a piece of salmon right before you work out, it is going to feel like a ton of bricks sitting in your stomach. You're probably going to be nauseous. You might even puke in your mouth a little bit as you're working out, and that is not fun. So if we're going to think of it as a pyramid, the base of the pyramid, what we want the most of is those hearty, complex carbs. Then you can add some protein in and then a little fat on top. Again, in the What Time Should I Eat episode, we went over this as well, but just to review, or if you missed it, in general, there's no right or wrong to this. I like to eat about an hour and a half before I train. I've learned that that's my sweet spot. If I go 2 hours, I'm going to be pretty hungry halfway through my workout. If I go any sooner, I can feel my body still digesting and I feel hungry, or I feel heavy and sluggish. So for me, the sweet spot's about an hour and a half before I train. I like to tell people 1 to 2 hours, and it's trial and error. The other things, when we speak of trial and error, is that you need to learn what works for your body. So for example, I had my gallbladder removed when I was a teenager. So my body does not process fat very well. So for me, if I have even more than a little bit of fat before a workout, I feel awful. There are plenty of people who can handle more fat before a workout. Now, does that mean we flip the pyramid? Does that mean that I recommend a high fat pre-workout meal? Absolutely not. The pyramid remains the same. Complex carbs, little bit of protein, tiny bit of fat. And what a tiny bit of fat means might be different for you than for me. Speaking of pre-workout meals, if you are someone who works out early in the morning, a common question I get is, what if I can't eat that early, right? If you're going to the gym at 5 a.m., you probably don't want to be eating at 3:30 in the morning or getting up that early so you can eat. Still, what we want in our body is those complex carbs. So what I suggest you do is your last meal of the day, if it's dinner, if it's a dessert, whatever, snack before bed, go try to get those complex carbs in before you go to sleep. Because when you wake up in the morning, you can just grab a quick snack. Maybe it's half a banana, maybe it's a quick packet of oatmeal, but you've still got all that food in your stomach from the night before that you're still burning. Okay, the reason complex carbs are such a good pre-workout meal is because they're our energy source. When your body needs energy, and you know this if you've hung out with me before, if you've tracked macros, when your body needs energy, it goes to carbs first. And complex carbs, because they're higher in starch and in fiber, they take longer to break down. So they're fantastic, slow burning energy. That's what we're looking for. That's the key to this, right? If you're a person like me that wants to know the why, don't just tell me what I should eat, Rachel, tell me why. And the reason is we want slow burning energy to fuel our workout. And that's what complex carbs give us. Post-workout is a very different discussion. And I'll tell you some points that are kind of funny, and then I want to dispel some myths. If you watch some bodybuilders, right after a workout, they'll go eat a bowl of like Fruity Pebbles or Cocoa Puffs or gummy bears or something. The reason they do that is because the other kind of carbs, which are called simple carbs, the theme of simple carbs is sugar. So things like maple syrup, Fruity Pebbles, Cocoa Pebbles, all those things, they're simple sugars. And your body can process those really quickly. So think about this logically. You just got done with a workout. Your body is depleted. It needs to be refueled as quickly as possible. In that moment, we don't want something that's going to take forever to break down. We want something that's going to be a quick refuel. And that's what simple carbs, simple sugars give us. Now, I'm not personally a fan of that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. If you want to fit some Lucky Charms into your macro plan, go for it. I'm not saying never do that. But for me, as someone who also thinks about nutritional value, I don't want to eat simple sugars like that every day. So I'm a big fan of fruit. If I'm somewhere where I can't have a meal, and I'll talk about that in a second, but if I can't have a full meal after my workout, I'm going to grab a protein shake and I'm going to grab some fruit, because I'm refueling my body with stuff that's easy for it to just get right to my muscles, that it can process, that it can start refueling and recovering with those. If you're in a situation where you can go have a meal, go have a meal. The ideal situation for me is when I'm done with the gym, I go home, I make dinner. Because again, think about the state our body's in. After a workout, our body wants to refuel. It's in the repair process. So I want to give it a well-balanced diet of carbs, fat, and protein in that moment. If you can make yourself a dinner of chicken or fish or whatever, or tofu or whatever protein source you go to, plus some carbs, plus some protein, that's the ideal. That's how we refuel our body. If you can't do that, if you're in a situation where you just got to grab and go, I go for a protein shake, I go for a piece of fruit. The idea of a metabolic window is a hot topic. And if you're not sure what that means, there's a theory out there in the health and fitness world that says Some people take this to the extreme. Some people say if you don't eat within 30 minutes of your workout, you may as well have not worked out. That is complete bullshit. That is complete and utter bullshit. Please don't ever skip a workout because you can't eat afterwards. Other people don't take it to that extreme. They say your body's not going to get all the benefits of that workout if you don't eat within a half hour. I have never seen proof of that. I've never seen scientific proof. I've read studies on this, and everything that I have read that I trust says that there is no evidence to prove that that is true. The ideal situation, again, is that you eat right after you work out. If you can't, it's not the end of the world. You will be fine. You'll eat when you can eat. Okay, so bullet point takeaways before a workout, 1.5 to 2 hours, 1 to 2 hours before, aim for those complex carbs, things like pasta, sweet potatoes, red potatoes, jasmine rice, oatmeal, bananas, all really good pre-workout meals or snacks. After a workout, the ideal would be a well-rounded dinner or lunch or whatever meal it is for you of carbs, fat, and protein. If you need grab and go for a protein shake and something with simple sugars, something like, or simple carbs, maybe fruit. If you're okay with some junk food here and there, you could fit it into your macros. That part's personal preference. No matter what, keep in mind this whole idea of not eating after a certain time of night, of if I have to skip breakfast, I shouldn't skip breakfast. It's all bullshit. The most important meal of the day is the meal you eat after a workout, because that's how our body refuels. For way more help with nutrition or to get started on macros, go grab my free guide, Lose Weight While Still Eating Donuts, How to Never Diet Again, on my website, www.mindstrongfitness.com.